Hello, Trailblazers, and welcome to another edition of Entrepreneur Journey. And today I'm super pleased to have with me Lee Milteer. And just a little bit, I'm going to let her talk about herself, but just to let you know a little bit more about her, she is an internationally known and celebrated entrepreneur, visionary, best-selling author. She's been a TV personality, and she provides business and success advice and resources to nearly 250,000 people around the world. Now, Lee, please expand on that.
Okay, yes. I am the founder of the Millionaire Smarts program, which I supply done-for-you content for coaches around the world. And one of my biggest clients is Japan, who's been with me since 2007. And I get to go over to Japan and teach courses about once a year. So life is good.
Wow, nice. So how long, when you go to Japan, how long do you spend over there?
I try to spend around 30 days. Okay. And the hardest part is leaving my dog home for 30 days. You know, the cat, he doesn't know I'm gone, but the dog is very aware that I'm gone. So yeah, so around 30 days, because it's around 17 hours to fly there and much more to fly back. And so you're certainly trying to leverage all of that as much as possible.
Nice. Yeah, I get it with the dog. I have a little dog, and if I'm gone for an hour, it's like I've been gone for days. So
yeah. Yes, absolutely. And I had to put the dog in the other room because she's very outrageous. So here we are. We're all safe for an hour.
Nice. So I have some just getting to know you questions, just kind of find out a little bit more about you, some fun questions. What's the most daring thing you've ever done?
I think the most daring thing I've ever done is go on a photography safari in Kenya and Tanzania. I was the last person to ever be able to go through those two countries, without a formal person from the government with me. I got to free range. I was a photographer at the time. I got to free range all over Kenya and Tanzania. And that was pretty wild. It was very gutsy of me because, there were live animals everywhere, and the natives did not like you taking their pictures and things like that. So, sleeping near wild animals and things like that was a very gutsy thing to do. Looking back on that, I'm like, that was a little crazy. I also, when I left Africa, I went to Egypt, and I spent a great deal of time there. And then I went to Israel, where I promptly got arrested as a spy. Because my passport had so much stuff on it and I'd been gone so long. The Israeli people, you do not mess with them. They promptly locked me up for 3 days. They ruined all my film of 4 months. So they ran me out of the photography business, sadly. But yes, it was a very interesting time. I had to get the American embassy to come rescue me because I clearly was not a spy. However, let me say this to you, Doug. When I said to them, hey, do I look like a spy? I mean, seriously? And they went, you look exactly like a spy. You are pure spy material. You're outgoing. You're very visible. No one would ever think that you were hiding something.
Wow.
And over the past maybe 20 years that I've been a speaker, I've told this story many times on stage. And Doug, I've had 3 women who could be my twin sisters actually come up to me and say, I was actually a spy.
Wow.
So we think of spies as, hiding in the dark, but apparently they're the outrageous blonde women from the South.
Wow. I'll keep a lookout for the outrageous blonde women from the South. And every time I see one, I'll think, is that a spy?
Is that a spy? Yes. All right. So that's a little background of interesting life.
Nice. So if you were a superhero, what power would you have?
I would have mental telepathy. And I actually do have that, mentally reading your mind. And I would also be invisible like Harry Potter. So those would be, I could read your mind and I would be invisible. So there I'd be.
Sounds like spy powers to me.
Yes, spy powers. Now that you've mentioned it, it does. I hadn't thought of that until you said that, but that's very good. That's good. Good catch.
So what is your favorite book?
Actually, my favorite book, which completely changed my life, which I went and looked up this morning, is called Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. I think this is the original book, by the way. I mean, it's completely yellow. Um, I read this book and it spoke to me so profoundly of the fact that my programming as a child had been so messed up that if I didn't get in there and rewind and really change my programming, I really did not have a bright future. But I originally read this because in high school, I hated high school because it was just slow and boring. But I became a librarian. And the reason I became, nobody would ever think of me as a librarian, but I love books and I could get out of class and I got to read any damn thing I wanted. And I read Think and Grow Rich and Psycho-Cybernetics when I was 16 years old, and it completely changed the trajectory of my entire life.
I have to agree, two of the best books ever. I wish I just had my copy of Psycho-Cybernetics on my desk because I've not only read it, I've read it multiple times because
yes. And you know, it's one of those things, you know, at the first of the year, if you just glance through, if I just glance through and write, you know, read everything I've underlined, I mean, I'm good, but it's a reminder of how important it is that we take charge of the caliber of information that we put in our head. That's why what you're doing with this podcast is so important, is, you know, educating people off mainstream media, which are complete liars and frauds and every other, that's the nicest things that I can say. And by the way, I have been in mainstream media. I worked in television for 10 years and I saw things and experienced things that are so evil and so horrible. And yet everybody thinks, you know, mainstream media is going to protect you. It will not protect you. They will sell you down the river.
So let's talk about your story, your background, and how you got to from where you started to where you are now. So can you tell us, first off, one of your best-selling books is called The Magic of Prayers. Will you tell us about that and how it's influenced your life and how it can help others?
Yes. Actually, I wrote a book before that called Spiritual Power Tools for Successful Selling. And in the end of every one of those chapters, Doug, I wrote a little prayer. And I was a salesperson and I wanted salespeople to thrive. And so many people started writing me and saying, we love the prayers. The book is great, but we love the prayers. Could you write an entire book of prayers? So for Christmas a few years ago, I wrote this tiny little teeny book, which I just did for my clients. And it was prayers from that book and some other ones that I had written. And I was very shocked by this, to be honest, because this book has no back end. And because your people are salespeople, they understand what I mean by back end. No back end. There's going to be no speaking engagements because of it. Nothing. But the outpouring of, we love this book so much. So one of my clients was a publisher and he got the little teeny book and he said, oh my goodness, this is the best prayer book I've ever had in my life, because you look up in the front exactly what is your problem and there's a prayer for it. So I specifically wrote 70 prayers, even like collecting money from people who owe you, bad neighbors, you know, very practical kind of prayers. So he liked it so much, he offered to publish it. It was Hampton Roads Publishing that turned into Rainbow Bridge Publishing, and then Square One in New York, you know how things move along. And so why prayers are so important is every day, all of your self-talks are actually prayers. So if you're saying, I'm terrible and I can't get my act together and I'm always late, and you know, if my boat would come in, I'd be at the bus station, which is my mother's favorite thing to say. And you know, all these negative things, you're imprinting into the world that that's who you are and what you believe. But when you use prayers in a very positive way, you know, that you're sincerely trying to do your best in the world, you're giving your mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, and financial best in everything. What happens is it changes you. It changes the vibrations of you, and everything in the world is energy. And so we all know about positive energy and negative energy, but when you consciously consistently pray for people and situations, you'll get better results. And, there's a saying about praying for your enemies. There's a lot of truth to that. If you think about all the evil people on earth, they're not getting a lot of prayers for them. And what our job is to do is often to pray for people to see the good within themselves and that sort of thing. So I'm a big believer in prayers, and I live a very good life, and just you can see all the books behind me, and that my whole room is covered in books. And I believe because I pray every day, good things come to me. So prayer is very important.
I'm on the same page with that as well. So awesome. Now let's dive into your entrepreneur journey. Can you tell us a little bit about where you started and how you got to where you are now?
Okay, well, I'm going to go back, to the beginning of time in the sense of, remember I said I really didn't like high school. And so one day the principal brought everybody together, and they had everybody in the auditorium, and they said, we're looking for volunteers of who could go out and sell the yearbook for that year. Crickets. I mean to tell you, there's an incomplete auditorium of kids, and I mean, not a word except for I got up and said, I'll go. Yes, I'll go. Please let me out of here. So I went and I sold for the yearbook, and I was the only person apparently who understood the fact that, money doesn't actually grow on trees. And so what they did was open up a whole new world to me, because I had spent my whole life, Doug, in the guidance counselor's office going, well, I can't be a nurse, and I can't be a teacher, and I can't be this, and I can't be that. And your 10 little lists that you've told me that I can do as a girl, none of these things are working for me. So when I found sales, I thought, well, this is perfect. My father said no to every living thing I ever asked for. So I had to learn to negotiate around that. So what happened, which changed my entire life to become an entrepreneur, was there was a job opening for a rock and roll disc jockey when I was a senior in high school. And I applied for a full-time job as a senior in high school, being a female rock and roll wild disc jockey. I kind of fibbed and said I was out of school, but I was actually still in high school, and I started this job. And that rock and roll thing led me to see that there's no money in rock and roll, but there is money in sales. Mm-hmm. And so I went into sales, and that started this entrepreneurial seeking out of, within a couple of years, I already knew sales is great, but now I want to own the company. I want, I want more fingers in the pie. So I started my first business. It was an electronic business, background music service of Tidewater. We were competition with something called Muzak, which nobody's heard of today, but was very big. And, it was piped in music around all stores and doctors' offices and airports and things like that. And so that led me into speaking, and then I went into commercial real estate, and then I got tired of all of that and just said, I'm just going to become a professional speaker. And so I went to a printer's office, and this isn't the card, but I just said, could you make up some cards? They just say Lee Milteer, professional speaker, and here's my phone number and my PO box. And that was my whole prep for getting in the speaking business.
Wow.
And so, yes, I am the kind of gal who is fly your plane while you build it. Mm-hmm. So I pull the trigger, and then I figure it out. And I know right away, this is going to be a racing horse. It's going to run. It's going to do well. Or I know right away, nah, not so much. Let's try again. Back to the driving board. So my life has been this wild adventure of, life giving you opportunities and knowing, scanning the landscape, knowing which ones to take, which ones not to take. But I am a born entrepreneur. I grew up on a ranch. My father raised me as a boy. I was the firstborn. He literally, honest to God, taught me to box when I was 5 years old, shoot a gun by the time I was 7. I could drive tractors. I could kick your butt. I was tough. I was really a tough kid. So I was born to do this, and I have no fear of people, because when I sell people, my whole intention is that I want to match what your needs are. If I have something if I am selling something, the whole thing is it in alignment with what the customer, the patient, needs? And so I love sales. Sales was my freedom in life. It was the opportunity for me to move past Chuckytuck, Virginia, a mile and a half from the nearest secondary road growing up, to real, wealth, because there are no limits. And if any company I ever worked for put limits on me, I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
Because there should be no limits. You should be able to earn and do, and as long as you are dealing with clients that love you. And in my current business, I started this in 2003. I have some of my original clients from 2003. So that says everything.
It does. Yep. That's
So
awesome.
This is the short version. If you really want my long version of my life, my book is called Reclaim the Magic by Lee Milteer. And there's a lot of adventure in that book. We don't have time to talk about.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. I know I'm going to pick it up because I want to know so much more about you. So was there any pivotal moments in your entrepreneur journey? You mentioned a couple things, but was anything like pivotal that made you change direction?
Well, one of the things that happened to me is when I was in commercial real estate, which, to be honest, I did not like, because there was a lot of paperwork and going to the city looking at sewer plots, which, really did not excite me very much. But someone drugged me, and I mean this very seriously, to it was called the American Rally, and Zig Ziglar was speaking there, and Art Linkletter. And it was one of those days that I was very unresourceful. I didn't want to be there, and I'm sitting there, and speakers are up, and I thought, well, this is very nice. I'm feeling a little something. And Art Linkletter came on, and I remember thinking, well, wouldn't it be cool to get to know him a little bit better? And then Zig Ziglar came on, and I swear to you, I had the closest thing to a religious experience I've ever had, which was I saw myself on stage next to Zig Ziglar speaking. Wow. And it hadn't occurred to me to be a professional speaker. And even though people said to me in sales all the time, you really should write a book, or you should be on TV, or, you should, be a professional speaker, and all of that just seemed like hilarious information to me. But honest to goodness, 12 years later, on a Sunday afternoon, Zig Ziglar's office called me and said, we're looking for Lee Milteer to tour with Zig Ziglar. Wow. And now remember, I had become a speaker, but I kept that vision in my head of being on stage with Zig Ziglar. And I didn't get to be on stage with Art Linkletter, but I did get to interview him. And he kept saying during the interview, honest to God, who are you and how did you get to me? Which was hilarious. But anyway, that was a very pivotal moment when the universe or God or whatever you want to call it showed, I had been really praying, show me how I can make a difference on earth. What can I do? I'm a little, rancher's daughter from Chuckytuck, Virginia. I mean, I had no money. I had no connections. I didn't have a great education other than one I acquired for myself. So show me something I could do. And when I got the vision, then I held it. I never once applied. I never wrote them a letter, which, is stupid. I should have done that. But anyway, somehow they heard of me, and I went on tour with Zig Ziglar and Dan Kennedy and some guy who was a memory guy who we could never remember his name, which was very odd.
That's ironic.
It's very ironic. We used to laugh about that. What's the memory guy's name? But it was very important for me to do that because it broke me out of this kind of beginning feel into a really serious, speaker. So I'm very grateful.
It's funny that you tell this story, and here's why. My next most recent interview that I did last week, can you guess who it was with?
Somebody from the Zig Ziglar organization.
Tom Ziglar.
Wow.
Tom Ziglar. Yeah. So it is crazy how God works.
Yes. And, but Doug, most of the time, we think when these famous people, are on stage that, we'll never have access to them. But the truth is, everybody's human. Zig and I ended up having breakfast every morning on that year. I learned a lot of stuff from him to do and not to do, So it's all about, having great intentions and living your life, big. Gotta live our life big. People are so small today.
Yep. Yep. You got it. You got to think that it's possible. You have to.
You have to think it's possible. You have to believe that there is some part of you that's much bigger than you are, and that really is true. And that's really my life goal, is to get people to tap into their potential more. They're just tapping into such a tiny part of what is possible for them.
Nice. So I want to talk to you some more about some of the stuff that you have out there. Can you talk a little bit about choice, not chance, determines destiny? I think that's one of your keynotes that you might give.
Yes, yes. Well, the reason I say choice you have to choose. So many years ago, I was in Sedona, Arizona, and I love bookstores. So I was in some bookstore, and Sedona is very metaphysical. And there was this guy speaking, and I just sat in for the lecture. And when he was finished, I didn't know he was this very, very famous sort of psychic from Sedona. And so he said, well, do you have a question? And I said, yeah, what am I supposed to do with my life? And he starts laughing his head off. And I said, well, is it really that funny? And he goes, well, here's the thing. You keep thinking God's going to tell you what you should do with your life. Don't you think God's a little busy right now? And, with all the crazy world stuff. So I think God would prefer you decide what you want to do and then just start it. And then, God will help, or the universe will help you. And I remember that night feeling like, well, I really would have liked it if you told me what to do. But the bottom line was I had to make the decision myself. So choice, not chance, determines your destiny. You have to decide with your skills, your education, what you're naturally inclined to do. Like I grew up, my nickname was Motor Mouth. Shocking. So I have a talent of communication. So if I don't leverage that talent and, really squeeze the juice out of that talent, if I try to be a nurse, I can't even stand fake shots on television. I never be able a nurse or anything like that. And I'm not really able to keep a job because I'm not employable. I'm self-employed. I've only really had one job in my whole life, and well, two actually. I was at 16. I worked at a Tasty Freeze, and then I was this rock and roll disc jockey, which was a real job. But you've got to make some choices of life is short. It's always very fragile. You need to ask yourself when you wake up in the morning, what is it my heart calls me to? Where and who do I feel naturally aligned with? What are my skills and talents and abilities that can be capitalized on and leveraged? And the only really ones I had was absolute sheer enthusiasm. I can talk, and I choose to have a good time in life. I don't follow rules very well, but it's perfect. I'm an entrepreneur. I have all the skills to be an entrepreneur. So choose what you want to do and start to pull the trigger on it. And here's what the universe does is as long as you're on the fence, the universe keeps you on the fence. As long as you get off the fence and start taking steps in the direction you want to go, suddenly there's a book that'll pop up that'll say, here's some information, or a movie, or a television show dialogue, or a person you'll meet for the first time. Something will happen that will give you inspiration that you'll know, hey, this is the direction I want to go in. And, we all know yeses and nos. And I've had a lot of no's in my life of trying things, but all of those things refined my journey into This is what I'm good at. So this is what I stick to. I'm not a tech person. Nobody wants me to do their books. I'm a salesperson, communicator, outrageous, have a good time kind of person. Let's enjoy life. Let's squeeze all the juice out of our life that we can. Stop playing small. Go for it.
That's right. That's right. So another thing I want to ask you is, how can an entrepreneur short circuit their negative thinking and the effect of past failures?
Well, you got to look at your past failures as stepping stones on what you learned. Instead of seeing it as a failure, if you reframe that situation into, here's what I've learned. I'll give you an example. When I first started my business, they had these college events where people could come and vendor. And I remember at the time it was a lot more money than I could afford, but somehow or another I pulled the money together, and I was a vendor, and it was like these thousands of college kids. Well, here's what I learned. The college kids did not give a damn about what I was teaching. But they liked the videos and they liked all this tech stuff. And so even though it was a financial disaster and took weeks of my life to do it, what I really learned was that's not my market. College students are not my market. I was trying to teach them how to get a job. What a concept. So, how to do a good resume and present themselves and, these things that probably wouldn't be taught in school. So I really learned, okay, that's a really good experience. That's not my market. They're not attracted to me. But here is who is attracted to me. Salespeople are very attracted to me. Entrepreneurs are incredibly attracted to me. Anybody who's a creator is attracted to me because I'm a no rule kind of person. That's very attractive to them. So I think it's important that we start looking at our mistakes as they're just stepping stones to keep growing, and not beat yourself up about it, but actually, look. You couldn't be where you are today if you hadn't lived through your mistakes. And for all the people think you can't make mistakes, all you're going to do is make mistakes every single day. And I launched something recently, and I said to my staff, I said, look, there are going to be tons of hiccups, but every hiccup is a gift, because now we know. We didn't know before this is going to be a problem. Now we know we can fix it. Before we couldn't fix it. So I do look at those things as gifts.
Yeah. I always like to say imperfect action is better than no action, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. Just move. Let's just keep going.
Yeah. You can refine it as you go. So.
And you should be refining it as you go. I mean, every day you should be, as they say, sharpening your axe or polishing your diamond. But people who become bored with what they do, it shows up, particularly in sales. And the other thing I want to say, because I know your audience is salespeople, I'm assuming for the most part, is that true?
Entrepreneurs, basically.
Entrepreneurs.
It's mostly coaches, consultants, online entrepreneurs.
Okay, so the minute you allow boredom to enter into your life, you're instantly going to start losing money, because everything is made of energy. If I don't have the enthusiasm and the energy and the belief and the excitement to be with you, then, the old saying, low desire creates low profits. Low energy is low profits. So I'm always telling entrepreneurs, check your energy level. Anything that you feel dread towards, well, you better be doing something about that. If you're dreading something, it's like a broadcasting station out into the world. So if you dread dealing with your employees, or you dread marketing, or you dread anything, you've got to find either people who can, carry those buckets for you that you can monitor, because you've got to monitor everybody these days. I mean, I don't care if they work for you 20 years, you've got to monitor them.
Nice. And I'm sure, I'm just going to make a remark on what you said about energy. I've had plenty of people that want to have a follow-up call just because they said they liked my energy.
Excellent. Well, and that's important, Doug, because think of the people who have no energy in the world. and then they're trying to influence you with something. If you don't have any energy for your own services or whatever it is you're representing, why would anybody else have any energy
Exactly.
for it?
Exactly.
And people don't buy from facts. They do not buy from facts. They buy from whatever, energetic that they feel about something. Facts will help, but it doesn't carry the sale.
Right. So I know one of the things that you also talk about is developing characteristics that define personal excellence. Can you dive into that a little bit?
Integrity would be one of the top ones we need to have. If you say you're going to do something, you're going to do it when you said you were going to do it at exactly that time. I believe in giving people more than what you offer them. Lots of surprise bonuses and things like that. In fact, when I design my offers, we're always looking for all the benefits. And then I always go, well, let's just hold this back. So we're not going to advertise this. So when, people pull the trigger and say yes to us, then we have all these extra things that they weren't expecting. So I think integrity is a very important thing. Another thing is, having the sincere desire to be of service to people and that you are helping them. People do occasionally call me and ask me to do things that I'm really, what they're asking me to do is not my best and highest and best use of my time. And so I always say, I'm not the best person for you, but let me recommend somebody I think who could help you. I think the other thing is that money is important, but it can't be the thing that you live for. You really, we all know rich people who die and, the relatives are just fighting over their money. I think it's really important that while you're alive, that you're using your resources to help as many people in situations and groups as you possibly can. But don't forget to also help yourself. I think it's, when we all get on airplanes, the flight attendants always say, put on the mask before you try to help someone else. I think that is a very good analogy for all of us. A lot of salespeople, entrepreneur and business owners are rescuers. We rescue people. We rescue friends and relatives. As a characteristic, I know it's not a characteristic, but don't hire your family. Do not hire your friends. This is all going to be very bad. So, take care of yourself first. Know when you can say yes and when you can say no. And I think it's very good, very, very important to be decisive in decision making. Don't stay on the fence very long. It's the most difficult place to be. Either we're on, we're off. And, if it doesn't work, hey, change it. It's that simple. But characteristics that hard work is incredibly important. I don't think anybody, like books like The 4-Hour Week, and that's just a shtick. Nobody, the 4-hour work week, that's ridiculous. But nobody can actually make a great living in 4 hours in a week. Maybe the guy who wrote the book, but
right.
The rest of us are, you've got to work hard. You've got to put a little bit elbow grease into it. And you also got to remember that your reputation really is important. So the things you do, the things you say, the things you write, because of technology, they're never going away. Be very careful what you put on the internet. And I would just say the other thing is really have great boundaries with your time. Everything about you is controlled by your time. And if you just let anybody have your time, your profits will go down. You'll be exhausted. So only do those things. Yes, the most valuable resource. Yes.
And if I could go back to the 4-hour work week reference, yeah, maybe even if you could generate the income you wanted to generate in 4 hours, I have this desire to help people, right? So I don't want to stop working after 4 hours because I still want to help more people. So
my question when I'm interviewing people occasionally is, if you won $10 million in the lottery, what would you do? And I know what I would do. I would go to work the next day because my work is my life. It's not, I'm not forced to work. I enjoy what I do for a living. It's very exciting for me and it feels good to help other people. So not that I wouldn't use the $10 million, trust me, but
Yeah.
I would not retire, because when you retire is when you die. You
Mhm.
have to have a purpose.
Same here. I would continue to work. Thank you, Lee, so much for sharing your story and sharing your expertise. I've learned a lot. I'm sure my audience has learned a lot. Can you tell us, before you go, a little bit more about the Millionaire Smarts Club?
Sure, it's brand new. We just started it. As I mentioned to you, in 2003, I started a content providing a company for other coaches, and it's called Millionaire Smarts. And if you go, look how fancy this is,
Nice.
to milteer.com. And if you just go to the coaching section on milteer.com, you'll go to, it says Millionaire Smarts Club. And what it is, it's a club of entrepreneurs and business owners and creators and manifestors. And each morning you'll get a short little email from me called Coffee with Lee. And that's 5 days a week. And it's this very short little intention for the day so that your head is clear. I also interview someone each month that is very powerful. So our January meeting was with Dan Kennedy and Dr. David Phelps on a book, which is right behind me, called Own Your Own Freedom, right there.
Yep.
And it's an hour and 11 minutes. It's fantastic. I'm also doing a training, a life and business mastery live training per month, which we do at the end of the month. And we also question and answers. And in our first month, we signed up so many people, we were actually surprised. But what we were surprised about was all the people from around the world. So people from Australia and countries I can't even pronounce, and great people. So we also have 8 other coaches on my program, and these coaches do each month information about PR, about sales, about leadership. So we have health, we have marketing. So it's not just me and Millionaire Smarts, it's a whole plethora of other coaches. And what we do is what we're filling in the gap, because we can't be live very much anymore, but people like you and I need to have connections with other people that are like-minded, because the world can be very scary and depressing with the insanity going on. So I just decided that instead of just working with coaches, I really wanted to work with other people who are in the trenches every single day, and to keep them excited and alive. And I am a great content provider. And so not only is it my content, but it is the content of all the people around me. But I also, if I would like for you to check out the Millionaire Smarts, it's 97 cents for the first month. 97 cents. And then months after that, it'll be $97. And then we're going to actually, in the spring, really launch. It'll actually be much, much more. But the gift that I have for you, if you go to this URL, 5typesofenergy.com, I have 5 free videos for you. There's one on mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, and financial energy. They're 5 minutes each. And it's about your life currency. And these are played in churches and in business and in colleges. They're played all over the world. And I specifically did them to gift to the world, to get people to understand that you have this currency, and that every day you've got to know mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and financially how you're using your currency, so that not only you can be of service to other people, but that you can be of service to yourself.
Yeah, well, we're not only, they saw the image of the links, but we're also going to put those links in the show notes. So if you want to click on those links in the show notes, or if you see the video underneath the video, those links will be there. I highly recommend that you access them. Lee Milteer is the bomb. I'm just going to say that. So I know so many people already know about her, but if you don't know about her, you need to check out her stuff, because it is amazing. So.
Well, thanks. I have fun, and we should have fun. Life is
Yeah.
this wild adventure. Have fun.
Exactly. Well, thank you again, Lee. It has been a pleasure, and I look forward to continuing our connection. And until next time, entrepreneurs, keep blazing your trail.